I'm Pam Compare. If you don't know, I'm on City Council, and thank you if you were in here and voted for me to get back on. Thank you very much. Mary would like for people of City Council to introduce themselves, please. Mary?
Oh, I'm Mary Outlaw, City Council. I'm not feeling well, so I'm sitting in the rear so I can exit stage right.
Ron Pugh, City Council, soon to be ex-City Council, and I'm just a citizen here tonight.
Me too.
Well, the purpose of this meeting
You want me to
is...
say something?
Well, sorry, Dave. Okay, Dave, go ahead.
I'm Dave Thomas, City Council. Just teasing.
Okay.
I'm Robin Simon, City Council, soon to be exiting.
Well, I wasn't for sure if I was going to get put in this position this evening, so I'm here. So I'd like to ask everybody to have a moment of silence, please. Okay, now I'd like to pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The purpose of this meeting this evening is to see what the community, what their ideas are, what their input is on the proposed building that's going in down where the old D&L parking lot is. We have names signed up. There will be no decisions or anything. We just want to let the public know that us as council people, we want to know what your feelings are about what we make decisions on. So there'll be no particular order about speaking. So the first person would be Terry Cutright. And I would like for you to state who you are, what your position is, and if you are for or against this building, if possible. Okay?
Terry Cartwright, I'm a member of the Development Authority, County Commissioner. I am for the Innovation Center. I just want to say, Pam, I can remember back in the late 70s, early 80s, Pittsburgh was going through a similar situation as we are. Steel mills had closed down, a lot of jobs lost, and they had to reinvent themselves, and they went with technology, and it's worked out pretty good for them. I don't think that in anybody in this room's lifetime, the city will ever have a chance to make a $115,000 investment and entice somebody to invest $4 million in their community. So yes, I am for it.
Everybody can count.
We'll do that. Did everybody hear Terry?
Yeah.
Okay. If you'd like to come up to the podium to speak, maybe everybody could hear better. Okay, the next one on the list is Joe Shaw.
I'd rather wait till later in the meeting.
Okay.
If you could come get me later.
Okay. Bob Skinner.
No particular order.
No particular order. Just grab the list.
I'm Bob Skinner. I'm the Vice President for Advancement at Wesley, and that's my day job. And somehow I was coerced into being the President of the Development Authority. I speak in favor of this project for a number of reasons. I think that it is an opportunity for Buckhannon to reinvent itself. I think it's an opportunity to build one technology and bring white-collar employment opportunities to town, which will enhance and help those who live on Main Street and create more business for them. It's a leap of faith, but I don't think it's a leap of faith that can't be successful. There's a lot of steps to go in this process. We are in a review process, and we have many steps to go before this could happen affirmatively for us. We're in a competition, and that means it's just like any competition you're in. Some people are going to be successful in receiving dollars, and some won't be. We are positioned, I believe, and I've said on record many times, that I think we've done, a lot of people in city government and county government have done great things for Buckhannon. And as a result, I think we are a perfect place to attract the kind of businesses that we want to fill in this building. We have changed with the period lighting. We have a college at one end, we have a hospital at the other, and we have, we've really made some, we have nice flowers, nice town, it's safe. It's the kind of town that as someone who travels around the country and visits other communities, we kind of stick out when you compare us with other places in West Virginia. We look like we belong in another state. Not many towns in West Virginia, frankly, can say that. Most of them, if you've driven through Grafton, you've driven through Welch, if you've driven through Philippi, not to, I mean, I'm sad, but the truth is, I mean, even my own hometown, Elkins, has a half a block now that has changed dramatically and not to the benefit of Elkins. We are different, and I think we're fortunate, and I think that's why I think this project works for us, and I am strongly in favor of it.
Thank you. Next on the list is Robbie Skinner. Robbie's one of our newest council elect.
My name is Robbie Skinner. I'm an insurance agent here with Mountain Lakes Insurance Agency. I'm also president of the Buckhannon Upshur Chamber of Commerce. Dave, to address your question from last week, I'm sorry we didn't get to answer that last week, but I wanted to tell you that on behalf of 160 of our community's most influential businesses who are members of our chamber, we are strongly in favor of this project. The Chamber of Commerce as a board has discussed it. The executive board has discussed it. And our members feel that this is the most important thing that we could do that will not only just affect the members that we have downtown, but the members that we have community-wide. Because when you have an opportunity to invest this kind of money in downtown, it's going to create ripple effects throughout the community, and all of our members believe that we are going to see a positive ripple effect from this project. I do want to say one thing aside from that. Last night I was in Weston at a meeting at Stonewall Jackson Lake State Park. They're working on trying to get more community members involved. And I was shocked to hear that there's such negativity in Weston and in Lewis County about Stonewall Jackson Resort State Park. To me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, that resort over the past 14 years has influenced the local economy significantly from paying into the hotel motel taxes that it does, just to we benefit from it over here. I could not get over the fact that the folks in Weston, majority, because I don't live in Weston, but and we don't hear a lot about our other communities, but they were so negative, and the folks at Stonewall and county commissioners and city councilmen in Lewis County they felt the negativity about Stonewall Resort, in that they just don't believe that it does a lot for their community. I would hate for us to go down the road of believing that something that is so positive and so important for our future is viewed upon negatively. This community works because this community works together. We have resources in this community that we get along. We have a community vision of forward thinking, and this is one of those times where this community needs to stand up and realize that we have an opportunity here that is going to save our downtown and save our community for the future, and for many of us in this room, the rest of our lives. I'm 27 years old. I really want to stay here, really, really badly. When I graduated from Wesleyan, I moved to Charleston, West Virginia, and worked for the West Virginia Chamber of Commerce. And then I had a short stint in Columbus, Ohio. You know, Charleston is a medium-sized city. Columbus is the 12th largest city in the country. And I chose here because Buckhannon has a way of life that's worth fighting for and worth defending to the end. But we can't just sit back and say, we're good. It's the same in the insurance business. We always have to grow because people move on, businesses move on, things move on, and we have to stay ahead of the curve. This is an opportunity for Buckhannon to stay ahead of the curve and be the shining star of West Virginia and the region, you know, for having this right in our downtown. So I won't take up any more time, but I speak strongly in favor of this. Thank you.
The next on the list is Dorinda Grumbrun.
Can we ask questions, Pam?
Sure.
Okay. I'm Dorinda Grumvine, and I'm not for it and I'm not against it. I don't know enough, so I came tonight to give answers to the questions that I have. I heard some things last week that were absolutely, I felt, disgusting. People need to be more informed when they make a decision of this size. I'm all for growth in the city. I live here. It would be really nice to know that kids had a place to go and businesses were here. But I'm just not seeing the figures, and I'm not hearing the things that are going to make me say yes or no either way. So, Mr. Hinton.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. My first question, I'm sorry, is to you. I feel like you were bombarded last week.
That's okay. I'm here to answer questions in any capacity, so I can take a hot seat here.
I didn't want to put you on the hot seat. I just want to know for my own benefit so I can choose which way I want to vote on this. Can you explain to me why not long ago, the transparency is a big issue here in the town lately. There's been a lot of non-truths. People said a lot of propaganda. I honestly don't think there's been a lot of negativity because in my opinion, when you hold an official, an elected official accountable for their actions, that's not being negative, that's being concerned. Not recently, just a week or so ago, there was a reporter that was kicked out of one of your meetings. Can you explain why?
Absolutely. Nobody was ever kicked out of a meeting. We had a meeting with a broadband fiber provider, somebody that lays fiber infrastructure, and we had a meeting, myself, a representative of the Development Authority, with this company on their location outside of Buckhannon. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to talk to them about their possibilities of coming to Buckhannon and bringing fiber to the businesses and fiber to the home. And it was something we don't have, and it would be something that would give us an advantage to become what's called a gigabyte city. Broadband is a utility that we need in today's future. We set up a meeting that would be between the city administrator, Michael Dawes, and the city engineer, Jay Holland, Region 7, and myself and this private company to talk about more brainstorming about what the possibilities would be. Where's the city on their position from an engineering standpoint? It was not a public meeting, it was a private meeting. Before the meeting started, we noticed that Mr. Cowger and Katie Minsker were at the Development Authority office, and I asked them, I said, are you guys here for Mel or for someone else? And they said, we're here for the broadband meeting. And I said, this is not a public meeting. There's no decisions being made. We're going to go back in the conference room, we're going to shut the door, and we're going to have a conversation about what we can do from a broadband standpoint of this company and their interest in investing in Buckhannon. It just wasn't a public meeting, and there wasn't any decisions being made. We didn't kick anybody out of the meeting. We just had a private meeting and we discussed with a private company what the options were for coming to Buckhannon.
Well, the thing about that is, though, is there is a lot of meetings, including council meetings, where nothing is decided on. But shouldn't the public be aware of everything that's going on in this case so they can choose if this is a good thing or not?
Well, there's...
Without the media, how are we going to know?
Right, I understand completely. but there was nothing to choose on. At the end of the day, we still don't know whether that company is going to make a decision to invest in Buckhannon or not. And so there's really nothing to report on. There's nothing to even make a decision on. They're going to bring a proposal to us, and that proposal, we can present it in a public forum as far as what that proposal would be. But there just wasn't a reason for this meeting to be public when no decisions are being made. A lot of things that we do, and I'll give you an instance. Procter & Gamble was a project that was private and confidential for 3 years because that deal could have been not killed, but that deal could have fell apart if the public would have known.
You're asking for something totally different here. You're asking for the city to give you money that the taxpayers paid for. You're asking them to just give you a piece of property that if you borrowed $1.5 million instead of the $1 million, you could pay for it yourself. You have enough money. You should have enough money because the council gives you $40,000 a year of taxpayers' money, correct?
To do what we do, development.
Right, which is great. That's great. But the thing I'm asking is, there seems to be a lot of secrecy over this and a lot of pushing it through. And I heard last week about the grants. I understand grants. But this is awful. Where is the money? Where's the actual money? You have enough money, don't you, to pay 1.5 instead of 1?
No.
You don't?
No. I mean, we're borrowing $1 million, and that really pushes our limits on borrowing. You have to remember, the Development Authority, close to 30 to 35% of the Development Authority's total budget is tax-based funding. The rest of it we raise by doing activities with property development, leasing, selling property, bringing in businesses that will buy property or lease property. So, I mean, it's very tough for the Development Authority to function on that kind of a budget, but we do make it work. You know, we get $40,000 invested from the city, and $30,000 invested from the county, and $30,000 invested from the state. So that's all the taxpayer funding that comes into it. We don't have a tax base, and we don't have a lot of money. I always tell folks that we're kind of the poor kid in town. We try to make it work as much as we can. I mean, we're getting ready to invest. We just sold some property or closed out a note at the industrial park, and that was $120,000. We're getting ready to reinvest that into the industrial park to do the booster station project. So we don't have. I mean, we're not a flush with cash operation. We don't have a big surplus, and our funding is every year. Our funding is up for debate as far as whether or not we're going to get it the following year. I mean, that's always a question.
I don't want you to feel like you're on the hot seat.
No, I'm loving this. This is great. We're answering questions.
Well, yes, and that's what's going to help people make the decision one way or another where they want to go with this. But this is taxpayers' money. This is our money. Okay? You're getting $40,000 of our money per year as it is. Okay? Last week you said you could only give us 37% occupancy in that building. Is that correct? Wasn't that what was said?
Without even marketing it to this point, we've talked to 6 businesses. We've got about half of those businesses we talked to that were willing to sign letters of interest to move into the building, yes.
Where are these people coming from?
That's
Are they
confidential.
local?
One business is local, but it's confidential. Nothing's set in stone. We don't have the funding. If we release those names, it could jeopardize and make it troublesome for the leases that they're in right now.
Oh, exactly. I can understand that. But you say 37%. Has that changed?
Not since last week. We've got one more business that's coming in. It's kind of a micro venture capital type business, but I mean, it's not going to take that much space. It's going to be more of a resource than anything else.
Tell me, just as one single person, and forget everybody else is here, just talk to me and tell me, you've got all this money of ours that we paid for, and you only have 30% occupancy, and how many buildings downtown are empty?
Like I said, with 37% occupancy is not even marketing. I mean, that's talking to a few businesses that have, had conversations with me one in particular that is here that says, we don't have Class A type office space. And so, I started thinking, let's see if we can try to get this. Because that's something that if we're going to recruit knowledge-based type firms, we need to have Class A type office space. We can't go, let's say CBRE, which is Charles, I can't remember what the initials stand for, but the last word is Ellis. Let's say we have a conversation with them, and we already have. They're ready to market this building. As soon as we know that if we get any leads, that we can confidently say, yes, we're going to have a building for you. What I'm afraid of doing at this juncture, because 40% occupancy is our break even. We actually end up having about $50 extra a month after we pay all of our bills. But 40% occupancy, we're about 37% there. So I think we're pretty close from the activity that we've done on the low end from a marketing standpoint. But once we set this out from a full-blown marketing standpoint, we push out what the rendering's going to look like, what the building's going to look like, I don't think we'll have a lot of trouble filling this facility. And again, if we don't have, when it comes down to it, because we're in the pre-application stage right now. And I'm a big proponent of responsibility. And I understand that my job is in the public sector. And my job is tax funded to a degree. And the money needs to be spent, and there needs to be an investment made in a return to the community and to its citizens. I completely agree with you. The one thing that we need to understand is that we're always reevaluating this project. And what that means is that let's say we're getting to the point we've been approved of the funding, we get what's called a non-binding letter of award, and we go through closing. It's just like a loan. You have to go through closing on a grant. During that process, we know we have money. We know we have the funding, okay? And so we can confidently say, hey, we can talk to a business and we can sign a binding agreement with a business that says, if you want 2,500 square feet, here's the lease, here's the terms we agreed on, let's get that signed away and squared away. And then that way, we have that information in hand, and that validates us getting a loan too, because we got to prove to the state that we can pay back that loan. If we can't get that, then I'm not going to do the project. It'll pay me, because I think this is a great project. But if it's not going to work, I teach entrepreneurship at Wesleyan, and it's always what we say is when you got to go through a business plan. We've developed a business plan for this. And the thing is that if it doesn't work on paper, it's not going to work in real life. And so we're fleshing out, and we've vetted this thing. And if the commitments we have don't follow through with their commitments, then we're in a position that we have to abandon the project and say there was interest, but there wasn't a demand.
Now, Pam, last week, wasn't it mentioned that the B&O taxes would have to be under the B&O taxes, but isn't there an exemption for under $1 million?
It's $1 million exemption, anything under $1 million.
Are any of these businesses going to revenue more than that per year?
Well, bring me up to speed on financial institutions is first dollar, right?
Yes.
Right? So we have two financial institutions that are interested in moving in to the Innovation Center. So there you go. There's a first dollar type business. If there's other retail businesses, it is going to be a $1 million. The construction B&O will be, I think we estimated at $80,000 when we were meeting with Michael Doss and Scott McClure one day. And I think the construction permit fees are going to be $15,000. So the city will realize $95,000 instantly as a return on the property. So I mean that's something to understand
And if this doesn't fill to capacity and doesn't work, is there any way that a clause could be written into this agreement where the taxpayers would get after the 20-year period so much of our money back?
Well, if after the 20-year period it doesn't, well, I mean,
I'm
guess over the 20 years.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I know.
Anybody knows?
I guess over the 20 years, I don't know what a typical lending institution or financial institution would bring in B&O. That's only a question Michael Doss, I think, would know. I think B&O tax revenue is confidential. It's hard to say. I guess you could take what is a bank in Buckhannon, the average bank B&O on an annual basis, and multiply that by 20 years. And I guess, in a way, the city is getting an investment. I mean, right now, the only return they're getting off the property is off of parking, and I think that's about $3,000 a year.
And that was my next issue. I agree with what was said last week, that everybody mentioned about if parking was the only problem, don't worry about the parking, take the leap of faith. I'm fine with taking a leap of faith, but I'm 65 years old. When I have to go downtown to the bank now, or to get my hair done, or to stop somewhere and get a cup of coffee or whatever, I can't get through town now. I mean, and I have a handicap sticker on my car. I can't get through town. So is there something being done with this? It's great, and I can see how this is going to make some jobs and keep some kids in town, which is, I left town. I wasn't from Buckhannon at that time. I was from Elkins, but I left town, went and got my education, got a good job, and retired back here. So I understand why you don't want kids to leave and we want to keep people here. But I'm just not seeing the money flow. I'm just not seeing that. If somebody could explain to me, Robbie, or if I could hear more about how the city is going to recoup some of the money from this for what they're giving. That's what I want to know. Yeah, please.
Personally, I think, I've educated a lot of students over the years, and typically they would have a starting salary. They had a computer science degree, a starting salary in the order of $50,000 to $60,000. That was more than I got paid at Wesleyan. Those are good jobs. They're not in town. They don't live in the state. There's nothing here for
There's still a
them.
lot of risk here, don't you think? I mean,
Pardon?
don't you still, I'm just not seeing it would be giving up a piece of property like that, selling it outright would benefit the city. You see what I'm saying? The city would be getting something from that.
It would be
This is a leap of faith,
transactional.
it's going to bring jobs, and I'm all for that.
And I
But-
think the one thing is that we have, I guess there'd be two different terms to use for this scenario. We can have a transactional scenario, and that's where we sell the property. Let's say you sell it for $127,000 and you get the money back that you paid into it. That's one transaction, and you're never going to see another benefit from that property again from a financial standpoint. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. This is a transformational transaction. This is an investment of a value of what was appraised $115,000, but let's say $127,000. A value of $127,000. You instantly recoup, if everything goes well and we're funded, $95,000. So you're $30,000, $32,000 short of the $127,000. But what you have is you have an opportunity for additional revenue in perpetuity. And then, let's say, one of the concerns was, Robin, that the property would be sold. If the property's sold, then you have at least a $4 million assessed value structure that is going to add a tremendous amount of real tax, property tax rates on an annual basis that is definitely going to be greater than, over a period of time, the $127,000. So it's definitely going to generate a considerable amount of income for the city under multiple scenarios.
There's just been a lot of failures lately.
Pardon?
There's just been a lot of failures, the LED streetscape package, and then the event center at Brushy Fork.
Well, the event center at Brushy Fork, I don't think that's a failure. That's a success. It's we have to look at
How much is that bringing you in?
Well, we don't control the event center. That's the CVB. But that's a startup business, and it took Summersville 5-6 years to get to the break-even point. And I think we have to understand that is a startup business. It's going to take time to build it up. One of the things that the event center presents as an opportunity is that there's a couple of hotel chains that are looking to come into Buckhannon because of that event center. And one of the hurdles, and getting into the weeds a little bit, but one of the things that we miss out on from an opportunity at the event center is having enough hotel beds in the area. So believe it or not, some of the conferences that we miss out on were actually short. So, let's keep working those leads and let's keep giving support to the event center. It's a jewel in our community. It's very, very elegant. It's very, very prestigious, if you will. I think it's a success. We have a new readiness center there with the National Guard. It's a phase one of three-phase project, so we're hoping, we're pushing like crazy to, get phase two and phase three out there at Brushy Ford. I really think that was a success. Anytime new construction comes to a community, I think it can be a success. I think there's going to be some growing pains and some time that we're going to have to see this thing through, but nothing's an overnight success. Even this project, it won't be an overnight success. And I've been, I don't guarantee that it'll work. I can't. Nobody can guarantee anything, and death and taxes, I guess. But we've got to take the opportunity. Will it be full in 1 year? No. If it does, then we did a heck of a job, and we'll have a party at the event center. But it's going to take a couple of years. It's going to take maybe 2 or 3 years to get this thing humming.
Now, I hate to ask this last question here, but I do. You're the person to ask this too. Since the last meeting, rumors have been running rampant around town. One person says this, another one says this. The main concern I think that most of us had in the beginning was the rush job on it. Now, I know that you have to rush for a grant, but this seems to be just a little quick without the public knowing a lot about it. So a rumor went into town, and I want you to quelch it in front of everybody tonight.
Absolutely.
Do you or any council member, past or present, get a kickback from this for putting it through a public?
No, absolutely not.
What was that?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, good. I just want
I want to know I asked for a double of my salary and zero. And I was told I could have twice of my salary, zero for.
There's
the rumors are going out there, and that's why people are
It's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. I will say this, whether you agree with him or not, okay, on the project, we stand as an authority completely behind him. He's done a great job. He's honest as the day is long. A bull in a china shop sometimes. And sometimes his excitement gets ahead of himself, okay? But, I mean, his heart is in the best interest for all of us. And I really hate it that when people say things like you said, because that's just not true. I've heard also someone say, create Buckhannon money and Development Authority co-mingled. That's not true. Okay? We get our books audited. We keep the money separate. Okay? We kept it separate until they formed a 501c3, and now they have their own money. But we don't commingle funds. We just kept it in the account. We managed their books until they were ready to manage it themselves.
I just had one question for Robin. Did anybody on the council find out from last week, because one of the main questions was if this was even legal? Is it? Does anybody know? Has anybody been able to find out?
The property transfer? Are you asking about the property transfer?
That
Yes.
was made perfectly clear at last week's meeting. His attorney read the statute to you.
Well, Mr. McClure did, yes, but there were some other attorneys that had said that wasn't true.
We didn't hear the name, did we?
We did not hear who they were. Would somebody like to tell us who they were?
I can read the statute if you want. I mean,
Well, I think one lawyer doesn't necessarily agree with another lawyer, and that's just the way.
well, it's not
that's what it
opinion,
is.
and I was on the phone with.
But I understand what you're
Yeah.
saying, but, I don't like to bring up things from the past.
That's something that does need to be clarified.
But that needs to be clarified because I know what we went through 6 years ago.
I can tell you, I can't guarantee the project will work. I can guarantee 100% that the property transfer is legal. The state code 7/12/11 states that municipalities and county commissions can transfer property to development authorities for the purpose of economic development. And the reason that that's in state code 7/12, and then obviously the next number is all the dashes, or the sections. And I didn't know this before I started, because people started saying numbers and I didn't know what they were talking about. But development authorities were created for to make economic development a little easier. So a city, if they want to sell a piece of property, I think they got to go to an auction and public hearings and things of that nature. But what the 712 does is it says, let's create economic development authorities. Let's create a body that's a quasi-governmental entity that can go out and they can lease property, they can sell property without going to auction, they can make it easier for businesses to do transactions as opposed to how it's done with a municipality or a commission. And the reason why the 71211 was put in there is because if a city or a county or a government has a piece of property that they want to see economic development happen, what they can do is they can transfer that to the development authority, and the development authority can then either develop that property, either with infrastructure and create an industrial park, or they can build a building and create office space. And they can do it without having to go through those same kind of auction type, public sale type requirements. They can act almost as kind of a private developer. And so it makes it a lot easier. And that's why the state created a development authority under the 712 articles or code section, I guess, if you will.
Well, I just wanted those answers. Yeah, probably.
Actually, he's right. It is perfectly legal for the city to give them that lot. Now, I don't know if the city wants to or
Well, see, that
everyone
clears it up
thinks we
because,
should, but it
you know,
is legal.
all week long, people have been saying,
Yeah.
no, it's not. Other lawyers have said, no, it's not. So the public needs to know that. They need, and you can blame Dave Thomas here for all the questions, because last week he said you had the right to ask questions.
I want to make one
I think
comment.
would make the comment.
Yeah, I appreciate all your questions. I want to make in regard to confidentiality, the Development Authority was created in 1990, formalized. And I know when we were working with the possibility of getting Trust Joyce Warehouser here, there was only a few of us knew that was the possibility. And we were told, point blank, keep this confidential for all sorts of different reasons. And we hire a person who's a director or executive director, or back then we subcontracted out to Frank Moots. And some of us knew about the possibility with Trust Joyce for a long time, but we could not talk about it in the community. And that happens a lot of times when you're working with potential development, either from a private corporation or a public corporation. They, at some point in time, will say, okay, it's okay to start talking about it. What I like about this project, to me, there are a lot of questions, and there'll still be a lot of questions down the road. And even if we get the $3 million grant, there's always a possibility that it's going to be so restrictive that Robert might come up to us and say, hey, there's too many strings attached to it, we need to walk away from it. So we're going to have a very good vetting process. This is part of that. So I appreciate your questions, and I hope we can move forward. I could add to that. I mean, the authority board,
Thank you.
we all in agreement what he just said. If the strings, we're going to look at that grant line by line, and if we think that's something that isn't right for Buckhannon, then the board's going to walk away from the project.
Are you going to be the trustees for that building? Do you all tell what businesses are come in and what businesses can't get in? Are you all the trustees? If there's a big cost overrun, who does it fall to on the building? Does it go to, the city's going to have to pick up? Is the city going to have to pick up maintenance for it?
No, that's, the way we'll structure the leases, we'll have a base rate for lease based on square footage, and then we'll have a operational charge based on square footage. And that will cover your operational and maintenance costs. And obviously, from a building operations standpoint, if we're going to own and operate this building and be the lessors, then we'll have to develop, a side account as far as to have an emergency fund for maintenance or repairs or things like that goes with the building.
It's going to fall to the development authority
Yes, sir.
and not to the city.
Yes, sir.
But there's a 20-year period where the federal government has what?
The federal government does take a 75% stake in the building. They're providing 75% of the funds in the form of a grant. And they're going to want a somewhat of an ownership in that building to ensure that that building is used for economic development and for the purposes that we are building that building for. They will review every lease that we put forward. However, there's a boilerplate lease that we end up giving to the federal government when we submit our grant application, and that's kind of the boilerplate lease that we utilize. I don't foresee that they're going to restrict any businesses from going in there.
So the federal government is going to review what you all do
Yes.
and approve or disapprove?
Yes.
I haven't trusted the federal government for decades. They're trying to punish North Carolina right now. Just trying to punish North Carolina.
Rob, I have a question.
Sure.
I was thinking the other day. You applied for a $1.5 million grant for 2 different places, right?
Well, the Power Grant is a collaboration between Economic Development Administration and Appalachian Regional Commission. Economic Development Administration does not have as much of a share as far as funding into the Power Initiative. ARC, Appalachian Regional Commission, has most of the funding. I think they're at $45 million total. But the way that the Power program works is that you can decide that each entity has a ceiling of $1.5 million. You can decide based on your project if you just are applying for ARC funds, Appalachian Regional Commission, or if you're applying for just EDA funds. And what we were advised to do with our project is to apply for 1.5 for each entity.
Okay, what I need to know, is there such a thing as you might get one of those granted to you and not the other?
There is,
Then what would you do?
yeah, right now, we were supposed to hear something on Monday. We did talk with ARC on Monday and Tuesday, and then I talked to them again, what's today, Thursday? Yesterday. We talked Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And they're still trying to make a decision. EDA is a little ahead of them, and they're kind of ready to go and pushing us to the next round, so we're waiting on ARC.
So what I'm asking, could you get one grant for 1.5 and not the other? And then what would you do?
We probably wouldn't be able to do the project because
Okay.
we would fall short on funding.
Okay, and is there such a thing that they're going to give you half of that money as a grant?
That's the unfortunate thing is that it's their program, and they can come back and say, I know you asked for 1.5, but we're only going to give you, say, 750. And at that point, it probably is going to be too expensive for us to go forward with the project.
Okay, that's what I'm going to ask.
I mean, we want to be responsible. We don't, we can't take out an exorbitant amount of money in the form of a loan because then we've got to pay it back. And that's going to create an overhead. So the more our overhead goes up, the riskier this thing becomes. And it's just, at some point you look at, this is going into business. This is looking at a business and saying, this is too risky. It's going to be too expensive, and it's just not right for us to do at this point.
I have a question, Rob. I looked online for the Power Grant, and if I saw this right, it said that Upshur County was not really that impacted by the coal mines. It's a transitional county, and that Upshur County had to match the grants by 50%. You're only asking for a $1 million loan.
Right. I'm going to lean on Shane for this because there's some math that both entities use to do this. And I'll let Shane, he's got more experience in grants.
I'm Shane Whiter, I'm Executive Director of Region 7 Plan Development Council. And what you're probably referring to is the ARC designates each county within its region, okay? And Upshur County is what they refer to as a transitional county. And you are right, they are only eligible for 50%. However, that's not under the Power Initiative. The Upshur County is considered a coal impacted county, okay? But since the Development Authority is applying for federal EDA funds as well, they qualify for 80-20 match.
Okay.
Okay. So, but you're right.
That wasn't clear, and
Yes,
so I.
you are right. Their
questioned
regular
about
program is, Upshur County is eligible for 50% because they are what they refer to as a transitional county. However, since this project's applying for power funds through that initiative, those rates kind of, we're looking at EDA for that extra grant funds rather than going through ARC.
that. Well, I had a question in my mind, that they were not borrowing 50% matching grant, so I was wondering where the other $500,000 was going to come from.
Yeah, you can get a better match rate through EDA than you can the ARC.
Okay.
So the 80/20 is under what?
They are eligible for up to 80%.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure. You're on the hot seat. Go ahead.
Is it in the grant that you cannot take any of this grant money and purchase the land?
I believe you are not allowed to use the funds to purchase property, no.
Is that
They want you to have the property in hand before while you submit the application.
Because I didn't see that, that's why I was.
They're probably
That's what
because
I thought, that he could.
it's probably because they don't have the application uploaded on any website. That's probably, you have to go, it's hard to find. You have to go through grants.gov and download the application.
The
And there's
application is
questions
on the
specifically.
website.
Do what?
The application is on the website.
The full application, I don't think is on the
Pre
website.
and full, read them both.
Okay. But yeah,
See, I read something like that too, that, remember I brought up the fact, why didn't you buy the property at Bill Kelly's and put the building down there?
Because from a feasibility standpoint, it doesn't make sense. $1.2 million to pay for property, then another $500,000 probably to tear it down and build a new building. You're at almost $2 million and you haven't even started.
Back end's also in the flood zone.
Yeah.
Bill Kelly's is in the flood
Yes,
zone?
back
Clear the
end.
back, but they probably.
But probably way back there, it has to be way back.
Not that far. Where the body shop is.
Okay, next on the list, Jerry Henderson.
I look out on this audience and I see grins and I see rolling eyes and I see all kinds of things. And I just hope that we haven't forgotten that every citizen should be respected. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, everybody in this city deserves the respect of their opinions. And I think that that's been a little bit lost. I don't say anybody has a negative viewpoint. They have a different viewpoint. And that may or may not pan out to be negative. All those people in favor of this, if it doesn't work, it was a negative idea. And the vice versa. If somebody's against it and it does work, then they say, oh my goodness, you were against it to start with. I really hope that we haven't lost the fact that everybody has an opinion and everybody deserves respect for it. So I thank you for letting me come here tonight and again voice my opinion. I urge the council to vote against the resolution supporting the property transfer. I am not against economic development, never have been. I've been heavily involved in it myself, and I believe in it. But more than anything else, I believe in transparency and the right of the citizen to participate. This is what bothers me most about the transactions, both recent and prior, coming from the Development Authority, who come to City Council on the spur of the moment, and there's always a rush to get something done. I don't believe the grant had parameters that forbid you from waiting a week later, 2 weeks later. I don't believe that. And I believe that that would have made the public accept this project more favorably, and I think it would have settled a lot more questions. Questions continue to come up, and every week there can be a different answer to a different question. Tonight we heard some questions asked that were different from the answers from last week or the week before. And I go back to whether or not it is legal. I haven't heard any definitive answer. I heard your attorney speak to it. I haven't heard anybody else speak to it. And I think that until there is a qualified decision as to whether it is or not. The city can still ask questions. Asking a question does not mean that you're bad. Asking a question means you don't know what's going on. Many believe that further research into that grant found inaccuracies directly in conflict with the information presented. What is the accurate information, and was it not presented in full to council to review? Has council, any of you gotten that grant to review?
Yes, you have.
I haven't.
It was sent to your
Did you
email, and I
ask-
handed you a copy at our office today, so don't shake your head, Ron.
That wasn't the.
That was the grant that was
full
turned in,
grant?
Shane? Was that the grant that was turned in?
Yeah, it's only a
That was all you
pre-application.
sent
It's
in?
only-
That was what we sent in?
8 pages.
8 pages.
I got that today, about 1:30.
So again,
But I wasn't asking for it. I had to go to the office to get it. So I suppose if anybody wants to go get it, they can come in and ask you for it. Is that
Well,
correct?
did you, I know Pam called when I was over in Rockville and DC the past couple of days, and I couldn't get it to you, but I did send it to your emails with the city when I got back. But I did give it to you, and you stopped by the office, so.
I did not
you-
get your email.
Right, well, I guess what I'm saying is that you never asked before today.
No, I didn't ask for today, but I didn't know about it until a week or so ago, and I wanted to be prepared to know exactly what it said. I think any member of council has the right to come and ask you for a copy of that.
And-
Am I wrong?
And we provided that.
Yeah, today when I came to your office and asked for it.
You got an email?
yeah.
I got
well, that's part of.
I'm not arguing with you, I don't know why you're so defensive.
You were shaking your head no.
Well, that's part of it. That's why people feel inadequate, because they can't answer their own constituency because they haven't seen it. So a lot of times, just providing that information in a timely fashion, and when you said to her you hadn't asked about it before, she didn't know about it before last week. So it makes it very difficult for somebody who doesn't know that something's going on to ask for something to clarify it. So it's a game of,
Well, just to correct, council knew about it the end of April. What was the last council meeting in April? What's that? April 21st was when we presented to council, the whole project. And then we had submitted the pre-application.
okay, and they weren't given anything at that meeting. I think at that
They
meeting
were given
someone
a,
asked
they were
about
given a 2 or 3 page takeaway.
Right.
That explained the project, and it had some language in there from the grant narrative, so there was an opportunity that if council wanted to see that grant, they should have asked.
It
We
strikes
never
me.
denied.
Right. I think that it's much more positive to offer rather than to tell somebody they have to ask if they want the information, because obviously more members of council had the information than all members of council. So it becomes a pick and choose as who gets the information. Let me also say that public input has been limited due to the information being kept from some council members, even though other council members had information ahead of time. They all have an equal voting right and should receive any and all data presented to others. If one council member attends a meeting where a discussion on a public project that's going to involve city funding is discussed, he has an obligation to come back to that council, go into executive session, and inform those council members as to what his participation was, his or her participation was. And I think when that is kept secret, then even in the developmental stages, and all of us are not newbies to business, we're not newbies to federal grants, we're not new to the fact that you keep some things close to the chest. But close to the chest and being private and only dispensing it to certain individuals leads to questions such as we're facing tonight. And when you say that the latest economic development meeting, they were not put out of the meeting, was it noticed as a meeting?
As a public meeting?
Yes.
No.
No, it wasn't noticed. It was a private meeting.
Was it noticed? It wasn't noticed anyway.
How did you find out about it?
It was on my schedule for work.
And the other person did tell me that he saw a notice of it in some way and
Well,
did come.
if it was in the paper, then it wasn't done by us, and I would like to see that newspaper. Because he did make a claim, and I looked, and I did not find it. But we did not make a public notice for that meeting.
Well, I don't know what his source was, but he did say that he did see that a meeting was going on, and he did come out to the
Do
meeting.
you want to say something, Katie?
Oh, I just know it was in our date book, I think.
I can clarify that. It was announced at city council. I believe the mayor, Rick Edwards, said that there was a meeting at 10 a.m. on whatever date that was about the PA project.
Yeah, I believe you did say that.
I just think the more sunshine that can fall on these types of meetings, the better off we all are. And I think that that's one that really needs to be looked at, because the longer that we go on without trying to become more transparent with the whole community, then the more difficult the job becomes to bring the community behind projects like this. And I understand the grant might be specifically designed to re-educate and prepare miners who lost their job to find jobs. If this is correct, were any mining groups contacted for input? Were any local miners interviewed regarding the project? Were the local mine owners or operators asked to review what the grant would provide, and would this enhance the future of their prior employees?
Jerry, excuse me, could you tell the public what you're talking about? Because I'm seeing some faces out there, like, what's she talking about? This originally was for displacement of coal miners with their jobs.
This was for a lot of different things. This was to diversify the economy, and that is the approach we're taking. Now, there is a section of this grant that they're looking for projects of retraining miners, laid off miners. That's not something that our project has. We're not retraining miners. We're not doing workforce training. We're doing entrepreneurship and innovation, which is a key metric on that grant. We're diversifying our economy, which is another key metric on that grant. So to answer your question, no, our grant does not involve any workforce development or retraining.
But part of that grant specifically encourages the re-education of miners and getting them back into
There's
work.
several different things that you can apply for, and what they want to see is one, retraining, the other is entrepreneurship and innovation and diversification of economy. So we're getting 2 out of 3.
And I also heard you mention tonight that you have 2 banks that have expressed interest in being in there.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not a lot of jobs. And when we keep hearing about jobs and bringing new jobs to the community, will that actually bring new people into the workforce, or?
Well, what that's going to do, yeah, I mean, there's banks today don't have what they used to. I mean, obviously the bank, the building we're in, that used to be all the bank. Automation. But what the key is for those lending institutions is those lending institutions that aren't in Buckhannon, aren't in Upshur County, they represent a large portion of access to capital for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And for them to have a footprint here, that opens up more opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs to access capital and have relationships with that bank. So it's more than the jobs. That's access to capital. And that's actually a very good point from the grant reviewer standpoint is, when we're doing entrepreneurship, it's what are the resources that you're bringing in? How are you developing an access to capital program? And I think that, with those 2 banks having interest, with the micro venture capital group that's interested in coming in, with the microloan company that, has a presence here, I think that we have a very good portfolio of access to capital for businesses. One of the toughest things for small businesses is access to capital. So we need to improve that. And so I think we need to focus on the lending institutions, not on that's where the big jobs are going to come from, but that's where the access to capital is going to come from. That's where that piece of the pie fits in to the puzzle.
And that micro lender, is that from the Elkins area that already been working with micro lenders?
No, ma'am. That micro lender was just a recipient of a SBA national award for being the best micro lender in the state of West Virginia. And they have done a tremendous job, especially with our business coach that we hired last year at this time, it was responsible for 18 new business starts, $1.5 million of access to capital, 44 new jobs created. I mean, that's the kind of impact that we're seeing from that. And what we want to do is we want to make it stronger. We want to build upon that.
And were those located in Upshur County?
What those?
Those new jobs that were created?
And those new jobs, I mean, I don't know how
I'd
many.
say 85% of what I've done is in Upshur County.
85%?
Okay, so 85% of those new jobs are from Upshur County. They created new jobs in Upshur County. Okay? And when we're talking about all of this new jobs that are coming and the type of jobs that are coming, whenever you talked about having retail, tonight you said something about retail would hit the 1 million threshold. Have you done any studies on what retail is bringing in their surrounding areas and how many retail establishments are closing down?
Right.
And what makes the difference between the ones that tried to succeed and failed, never met the threshold of $1 million, so we wouldn't be getting...
Right, and I'll rephrase that. I didn't intend for that to come across as if these retail outlets are going to create $1 million in revenue. I was just saying that with the retail side of it, obviously you have the $1 million, and then after that, you'll get B&O. I'm not saying that those retail or anything associated with retail is going to hit $1 million in sales annually in this building. I just was putting that in perspective that the bank is the first dollar, but the retail or the restaurant or whatever may be going into that other spot on the first level is going to have that $1 million exemption.
So any retail establishment that doesn't hit $1 million, we won't get any B&O from.
Correct, and you shouldn't want to, as a city.
You shouldn't want to.
No.
Why?
Well, because B&O on a business that makes less than $1 million, you could have a revenue as a small business of $200,000 and not have a profit, and yet you still owe a B&O tax. And I think the $1 million exemption that we have in Buckhannon it tells everybody in the state that we're progressive, that we're wanting small business to come in to the city of Buckhannon. We encourage small business growth, and after you reach $1 million, you're a substantial business, and then your B&O kicks in. But I think under $1 million, I think the model that you guys have is really spectacular.
We think it is too. I just want to know the plan in the future. Has this impacted anything as far as being more open in your meetings at the Economic Development Authority, of bringing things to council as a whole, as giving the people time for input? I've heard from so many people that said, I'll give you some of the things, because we're here tonight hopefully to get some other suggestions about what that property could be used for. To my knowledge, there was no thought given to any other development. I don't know of any local developer that anybody approached and said, gee, we're going to put that property, city's going to loan it to us, give it to us, whatever. Is there any development that you've been wanting to do that maybe we can co-op with you, get it in, blah, blah, blah? I don't think that the public was asked as to, will this be the best use of that property? Last week I heard somebody say, wouldn't it have been more advantageous to find a company who wants to come to Buckhannon, who wants a structure built, who will have above $1 million, who will be paying into B&O from the first dollar? Were those people not considered as being able to bring that in? I think that that's part of what the frustration is that it seemed it was predetermined by X number of people that this is what we want to do with this property. And I don't believe that all the people in Buckhannon feel that way. There's been expressions made as to why isn't it used for public parking. There was criticism of putting the kiosks down in behind where it's darker, it's less developed. Senior citizens don't want to go down a dark street to come out. They want to be on Main Street. They want to park there and go to the stores rather than go someplace else and have to walk up. They also mentioned developing the park up in the front with green space. So there are people out there who had ideas to be heard who didn't know that it was going to be bought as, this is the one project that we're going to do. And we need you to give us the property to do it.
This is, I mean, if anyone had ideas to develop the property, then why didn't they do what we did? We brought it to the city. We presented it, and we said, would you partner with us and invest the property into this project? And so I guess to say, if there's other developers that want to do that, well, why didn't they, what was their reservations on doing that same thing and coming to the city and saying, look, this is what we'd like to do. And here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to fund it. And that's the other thing I think we need to keep a focus on, and it needs to be important, is that this is not, this is not just an idea. This is an idea with action. This is something that, the reason why it was brought to the city at the point that it was brought to the city is because we actually had a real opportunity at funding that. So before that, what's the point? If we have no idea how we could fund a project like this, it's a hallucination. Our project's a hallucination because we have no way to fund it. And so it's kind of, that concept was on the back burner of the development authority. I brought it to the attention of the board, last fall and said, look at this would be a great opportunity. I think this is how we can diversify our economy. I think this is how we can bring knowledge-based jobs, but there wasn't a funding opportunity. And so once that funding opportunity came up, the power came up fast. Nobody knew what was going to be involved in it until the FFO came out on March 17th. We heard from the beginning, about 2 weeks before March 17th when it came out, we heard that it was going to be a one-page pre-application. So I'm thinking, all right, we get this thing on March 17th, and on Friday morning, we'll draft the one-page. And that wasn't the case. I mean, this was a very detailed application, if you will, and it took us a while to pull this together. But from that standpoint, I mean, I guess we came to the city and we brought the opportunity and we brought the project. And if there was another developer that had an idea and had a way to fund it, then they should have done that. They should have done the same thing. I mean, I think we did the due diligence and let the city council make a decision as to what they wanted to do, and they made their decision last week, and it was a unanimous decision to support the development authority, that if we're funded, they will, resolve that they would transfer the property. And obviously, we still are going to reevaluate as we move forward. So.
Yeah, last week, I think some people were under the impression you couldn't sell it for like 10 years or 20 years or 30 years. Can you sell that property 3 years after it goes in your name?
We can sell that property at any time. The problem with that is that we have to get, let's say we sell it for, let me do math. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of tired, but $5 million. $5 million. We have to give 75% of that $5 million to the EDA.
Let's say that you sell it before you build it. Somebody will walk up to you. Somebody walks up to you and says, "Well, we'll give you $750,000 for a piece of property you got for free, and you can take that $750,000 and you can use it."
We can't do that. We can't do that.
Can you tell me why you couldn't do that?
Well, because the only way we get the property is if we got grant funding, and we can't not build the building and keep the property. That doesn't work. No, that's not. There is no.
So there's something in the grant that restricts you from doing that. You can't.
No, it's a moral choice. It's a moral choice by me.
Oh, so it's
a moral choice by me that says we're asking, as a representative of the Development Authority, I'm saying, here's what we'd like to do. And the purpose of the resolution is, if we get this grant funding, will you invest in the property and let us build a $4 million building, an innovation center, knowledge-based offices and such on that property. It's more than a building. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for innovation. It's an opportunity for entrepreneurship. It's an opportunity to start having coding classes here. And I don't know if you guys read the newspaper when Brad Smith was in town. I was there and listened to him talk. It was the third time I listened to him talk and got an opportunity to talk to him personally. One of the things he said is, one, broadband connectivity. This building will have fiber. Okay, bring fiber to downtown Buckhannon, Main Street. The other thing it'll have a maker space to make prototypes. It'll have the opportunity to bring coding classes in. So, our high school students can take coding classes. The residents of the town can take coding classes. You learn how to create an app. You don't have to have a computer science background. That is the magic that we're trying to do. It's not about making money. It's not about anything else. It's about development. It's about opportunities. It's about securing our future. And why would we go through all this trouble if we're looking at selling the building or selling the property? We don't want to do that. We want to create opportunities. that selling the building is not even on a radar. That's not even something we want to do.
Well, there's just people out there that need other things from the city. We need other services from the city. And they keep seeing their bills go up and up and up because the city doesn't have enough money to do everything that they say they want to do to provide for the citizens. These are necessary services. These are not somebody's hope, as you used the term last week, that this will develop. These are necessary services that we need. So the city is saying, okay, we're going to increase this tax, we're going to increase that tax, but we're going to turn around and give the only piece of property that we own outright, that I believe is the only one available for development, but we're going to give it to another group of people. Those citizens don't like to be paying money for necessary services and then see other property given away free. I just want to ask you one other thing about parking, because that is a troublesome issue. If it pans out that you cannot put underground parking under that building, where will you park all of the cars? And will you commit tonight that you will not come back to the city anytime in the future to ask for parking to be enhanced, expanded, built, anything like that, that as a result of this additional building?
If we can't, if we put parking down, if it's a 50-50, whether we can do that or not, I don't know if it's going to be feasible or not. It's only 18 spaces. I can't, and here's the honest, the honest person in me. I can't tell you that it's not going to have to be some kind of project that the Development Authority is going to partner with the city to look at parking opportunities and parking options. I think this is a partnership. I think if you have a parking problem because you have too many jobs in downtown Buckhannon, you're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the curve in West Virginia, and you're doing something right. You're doing something good. And I understand services. I understand that there is money that maybe could be invested somewhere else. I think the investments in the Development Authority represents 1% from the city's general fund, and I think that that investment is worth it. Do you think that your investment from the city standpoint to Development Authority is worth it?
The possibility that in a grant that I don't know anything about, and I don't know the parameters of what the promises have been made, I don't know the participants that it's going to benefit, because after reading the grant, and after hearing you mention minors last week, minors were going to be involved. Tonight I'm hearing that's not the case. So no, I don't know enough about it to know whether it's a beneficial.
I don't think I said anything about minors being involved.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, we did. So I just, as far as I'm concerned, speaking for myself and the people that have spoke to me, I truthfully believe that this was bought too quickly. It was bought with too much of a deadline that I don't believe is true. I don't believe that it had to be done. I believe it was done to prohibit the incoming members of City Council from voting on it, and to keep them public from having enough time to come and say, let's build this, or let's do that, or let's involve somebody else. And I think those are two dangerous things to stop the public from being involved in. Your biggest partner could be the people. And I think that's what got left out of this project.
Thank you, Jared. I'm going to say one thing. Everybody has the opportunity to speak here. We have the sign-up sheet. I don't like to look out there and see all these spaces. Everybody needs to be respected that gets up here and speaks. That's me, whoever. You out there, whoever. We're all here for the good of this community. And if you don't like each other's personality, so be it. I don't care. But we're here for the good of this community, and you better get your mind back on what we're here for. Hey, Ron.
I wasn't going to say anything at all tonight, but I've got to stress that if that property were sold for $127,000 to an investor that just wants to build something there, and that $127,000 were to be put to decrease the amount that we increase the fire fees or the police fees or the sewer rates or the water rates, that wouldn't go very far, would it? $127,000 would not go very far. However, if you take this project and consider that we're going to get $90-some thousand back first time when they're doing construction, all the businesses that go in there are going to be paying us in the future, and consider that this is a profit-making thing for the city as far as taxation goes for the next 20 years. That certainly is going to help keep the taxes down, and probably that's one of the reasons we had to raise them, was because people back 30 years ago did not keep up with the way taxes were going and the way that the interest rates and stuff were going. 30 years before we had an increase in the police and fire tax. That's ridiculous, because they certainly have gone up before that. Another thing, I knew about it, thank you, I got my email. We have to think of this as a progressive part of the city. I don't think that if you take this to the citizens as we are tonight, and if we put it to a vote tomorrow, this would pass by a 95% majority. There is no doubt in my mind that it would pass like that, because people want to see their kids stay here. They want the education that we're going to be able to offer for coding and everything. I have no idea what the heck coding ever is. But I know that I hear my daughters and my grandchildren talk about it. And they're in places like Morgantown where they got the opportunities to do things like this. In Morgantown alone, in the high school down here, Morgantown High, they had 2 students in that school that made perfect 36s on their ACTs. Now, that's unheard of. But they have a better education system than we do here in Upshur County. We have to strive to better ourselves no matter what. We cannot look behind us. Everything that's behind us is in the past. We have to forget that. We have to look forward, we have to be positive, and we have to think what this is going to do for all of the people in the future. Thank you.
With your permission, I would like to speak. I haven't signed the paper or anything yet, but all of the past city council meetings, for how long, how many years?
A couple at least.
Oh, 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 years, are on YouTube. Go to the website, www.ch3ondemand.com, and you can pick and choose whatever city council meeting you want to watch. It's there. A second thing I want to say, and I kind of hesitate to say this, has nothing to do with Channel 3 or city council meetings. But it does have something to do with your office space that might be available if you build it. In my life, I have started 6 businesses, 3 in Michigan and 3 here. I am working on hatching up an idea for a 7th business, which you folks have never seen this kind of business in West Virginia. And I want to do it here. I'm not ready to announce what kind of business it is, but if this project goes through, I will probably check it out for a site for my corporate offices. Like I say, a lot of things have to fall into place first. As time goes on, I'll announce what it is, but I'm not ready to do that yet. But your office space sounds tempting. That's all. I'm done. Thank you.
You should talk to Susie as well.
Well, I got to talk to the business coach first before I do anything.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm making an appointment with you in a week or 2.
Next, Rich Clemens.
Thank you. You can take a breather.
Yeah. You don't have any questions for him?
No. I'd have a couple for Jerry. But let's go there. Authorized personnel. A couple of random thoughts. I won't go back to what I said last time, but I'm 100% in favor. In fact, make it 110%. this is what our kids need. I have had seniors. I used to teach senior project in computer science. Last year of college at Wesleyan and the computer science program, we offer a course called Senior Project. It's where a student takes an idea and tries to develop the code, the program, the resources, what they need in order to make a product that could actually be sold. I have had some absolutely super ideas over the years. About 5 years ago, a student came and said, I'm going to come up with this little thing that you can put on a keychain, and when you get to the parking lot for whatever business you're going to go in, you punch your button, you go into the store. When you come out from the store, you look at this little gizmo, it'll tell you which way your car is. I thought, what a great idea. And he wrote the code, he got it to work, worked on a cell phone. It was just great. But there was nothing for him to go make that into a product. 2 or 3 years later, I saw that product for sale, where you could buy one. He could have made a fortune probably on that product had he been the first to market with it. But there wasn't anything around here that you could do. I had another student, actually about 10 years ago, who was a combination finance major and computer science major. Kind of an unusual collection, really, but he was into both. And he came up with this program that would analyze stock market and predict what stocks were good buys and what stocks were not good buys on any given day. And the information was coming in through the internet, and it would get loaded into his program, and then it would make recommendations anytime you wanted them to buy or sell a particular set of products. He made $10,000 on that piece of software that he wrote as a senior in college. He didn't make it from a business, he made it from a graduate school that on the spot, when they saw it, awarded him $10,000 scholarship. Not a grant, not a loan, but instant, here's your $10,000, come to school with us, and the School of Finance. I got another student whose senior project was to create music with a computer program. Music. He was a combination music, computer science major. His dad lives out, he doesn't live in Buckhannon, but he's right outside of town, what used to be the center of the United States, actually. Little town. And his project was to create a computer program that wrote music in the form of Bach. Now, I'm sure Bach is one of your favorite composers. Yeah, like mine too. But anyhow, he went into his wife, or his wife-to-be at that point, his wife, was a music major. And she was going to go to graduate school, or to, not graduate school, what do they call the music majors? Conservatory, thank you. And major in her particular instrument at the time. Very delightful young lady. They did get married. They moved to Indiana because that's where her school of choice was. He ended up writing software for a company that made software for attorneys and for legal systems. Was there anything around here that he could do? No. He had tremendous talent. I still, corresponding with occasionally on Facebook. I got a student that graduated that ended up being the IT specialist for the U.S. Senate in Washington, D.C. We got a lot of talent around here, folks. We got a lot of talent that doesn't necessarily born and raised. I wasn't born and raised in Buckhannon. I came here, thought I'd stay a couple of years, teach at Wesleyan a little bit, and then I'd go on and find something else. I'm still here. Now I got a little plot of ground out there. I'll be forever, I hope. But, we gotta think about the future. We gotta think about what's gonna happen. We're not in paper pencil days anymore. Change is tough. Change is one of the biggest problems that we have. We don't want things to change. We want to be able to go down that street and see the same thing we've always seen. We want to have the same kind of job. You know, my dad was one of those fortunate few that started out with a company and stayed with the company till he retired. That's gone, folks. I was talking to an individual this afternoon. He was an owner of a coal mine. Unprovoked, he said, you know, coal mines are not coming back. Oil and gas is not coming back for at least 5 years or more. You know, we need to think today about tomorrow. And tomorrow, whether we like it or not, is technology. You know, we talk about, we keep kicking this broadband around. When I moved to this town, the quarter H stopped out there before you got to town. You wind back some pretty farms and some nice country lane, and you went back and forth. And, you know, you came into town. You know, if you want to go, how many of you go to Elkins? How many have you gone to the back way to Elkins? Do you go to the back way to Elkins? I haven't gone to the back way to Elkins, and once I got 79 or the quarter H done, I haven't gone the back way. I think about it every once in a while. About the time I turn on to the 4th lane, I could have gone the back way. We gotta think about the future. We got to plan now. I mean, you look at the buildings downtown. I love historic buildings. I love Buckhannon. They're not going to be there forever. Some of them are having a few problems now because people aren't willing to take care of them. There's a few people in town that really do take care of the buildings, but most of them just let them go. Yeah, we're talking about fiberglass, you know, fiber optics, bandwidth, gigabit. That means glass in the wall. That means fiber optics to the desktop. We're not talking about yanking on a wire up through an old wall. It's about laying glass in a wall when you can then run signals through light through glass. Talk about bringing, you know, gigabit Ethernet to downtown Buckhannon. I remember when I was doing pretty good when I arrived in Buckhannon. I got a dial-up connection. I took the cat modem and I took that phone and stuck it in the little circles on top, and I could go 110 baud. We got to think about the future, folks. And this is the future. We may not like it. We may not understand it. We may still be looking at a flash and VCR. But by golly, our grandkids can do it. I got grandkids that are, you know, the first thing they sit down to is, you know, can I use your iPad? You know, can I play this game? Can I do that? They're going to be writing apps in 6th grade. The guy's still learning long division in 6th grade. So, think about the future. May not be transparent. There's a lot of things I did at City Hall were never transparent. It took 2.5 years, actually I think it was closer to 3 years to get Rite Aid to commit to get that corner down there. I knew about it for 3 years before the rest of you knew it was coming. Now, was I supposed to go out and share that to everybody? No. You know, there's some things that we got to trust folks like this to keep quiet. Because there's an awful lot of things that he probably knows about that are never going to happen. This one he happens to know about. And he's telling us. We ought to say, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Keep the secrets.
Joe, did you want to speak or not?
I already spoken.
Okay. Okay.
I got a question on his latest. What is high-speed internet? I was like, when my 64 car, that 128 was high-speed. What is it now today?
Well, I've got 50 megabytes coming to my house, and it's not fast enough.
What's broadband now?
Broadband's gigabits, 1,000 times that, you know? If you want to put it in simple terms, it's are you going the old 2-lane to Elkins, or are you going quarter H?
Bandwidth is truly the bandwidth. It's how wide can you get? It's going from a 2-lane road to a 4-lane road. Now, if you really want bandwidth, you go out where my kid lives, where you got 8 lanes going one direction and 8 lanes going the other direction. You get off the exit, you got 3 lanes. You go, holy crap, which lane am I supposed to be in? He drives around there like it's nothing. I say, you drive, all right. That's bandwidth. That's all bandwidth.
Asking every 5 years, it doubles.
No, every 18 months it doubles.
It doubles now 18 months?
No, it's always doubled every 18 months. Computer science is doubled every 18 months. Power doubles. You take a 5-year-old computer, it's a piece of junk.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. I don't apologize for it.
I'll ask one question.
Okay.
Last meeting, you said, we're 20 years into this information or data. Why haven't we seen a lot more employment?
Because you're still offering
And
cool
why
jobs
is it
and
the salvation for our city? Just curious.
you're not offering anything here.
We don't have it. We don't have it.
You don't have the jobs.
Well, you're always passing technology, right? It's an ongoing thing.
The FBI
We're
Center.
going to see the employment improve greatly. You're saying if we just keep going on with technology?
Well, look at the FBI Center. How many people leave Buckhannon and drive north every day?
Some of my graduates went to FBI Center. Some of them didn't like it.
Well,
They said, I want to be outside.
The FBI
I don't
Center.
want to sit at a computer all day looking at fingerprints.
The FBI Center in Bridgeport, just one second. The FBI Center in Bridgeport was a huge investment. And it was a critical investment, and it was a catalyst. And it has spurred various jobs and various companies that contract with the FBI that have grown Bridgeport and have created opportunities. We don't have the FBI Center. But what we can have is a very small scale type of investment that could catalyze that type of growth. And we could have businesses that maybe contract with the FBI Center that could locate here, that have that space that they need, the access to gig fiber. There we go. And, because I guess we're going to get into the weeds of technology, but when you think of a computer, everything's stored in the box of the computer or in the laptop. Now we're going to, your information, your data is stored in the cloud. And it's off-site. And everything transfers over the internet. And if you don't have that good connection, if you don't have the fiber speed, you can't transmit data in an efficiently fast manner, and then your efficiency of your job creation is down. It's like manufacturing machine operating at 40%.
I'm not against technology. I'm pro-technology. But I don't think it's a salvation for the city of Buckhannon. And sure, there'll be some people employed in that industry or business, but it's just not, I don't think, it is the future, but I don't see it employing a bunch of people. Hundreds of people that we need employed.
There's never, with economic development, there's never one silver bullet. There's never one industry, and we've learned that.
That's right.
And, you look at Detroit, I grew up in Akron, Ohio in the 80s, and I saw firsthand the rubber company extracted and basically wiped out an entire city. You look at Youngstown with steel industry, Pittsburgh, and so on. We could go on and on about areas, and we're there now. I mean, areas that rode one industry, and that's where we had the ancillary businesses, and we had the jobs, and we had a good run. And now it's diversification. So what's one thing that creates an opportunity that we can put in place, and that's knowledge-based type of jobs? Is it the one thing that's going to be the salvation? No, you're absolutely right. There's never one thing that's your salvation, because you never want to bet all your money on one thing. You never want to put all your eggs in one thing. It's just like investing. You don't invest in one business unless you know the future. you diversify. So if a business falls, then you're carried. And that's what we have to do. And I think that this is an opportunity to look at how can we get a few more knowledge-based businesses to balance out the economy here in Buckhannon, in the region. And how can we look at, because we're 90 minutes within a 90-minute drive of 10 colleges and universities that represent about 50,000 students enrolled. And they graduate every year, about 4,500 students that have some of the skill sets that would be matched with the opportunities that these businesses would create. Now, 4 out of 5 of those college graduates leave within 5 years of graduating because of the opportunities they can't find here. Now, I'm not saying that we bring these opportunities here and everybody's going to stay. There's people that are going to leave West Virginia and it's going to happen no matter how many opportunities you have here. But there's people that want to stay, and we need to create those opportunities. I'm one of them. I had to leave 3 times, fight and claw to stay here. And it's not easy, and we need to make it easier for people to stay here. And I think that this is an opportunity to lay the foundation and to start that and to see, how could that grow? Maybe the building becomes occupied to capacity, and that's it. No ancillary businesses or anything. But we've added some jobs. We've added 80, 100 jobs, whatever, what have you. We put a dent in something because right now we have a hole. The numbers haven't come out for the oil and gas industry, but I know one business alone is over 300, dropped over 300 employees. So, we've got a hole right now, and we've got to figure out how to fill that.
Okay.
Did you see our achievement test scores?
Pardon?
Have you seen our most recent achievement test scores?
No, sir. I have not.
We need to move on, Joe. It's not about what we're talking about. I've got 3 more people want to speak. So next, Christine Bennett.
Actually, I'm just going to sit here if it's okay. Can't stand people looking at me, so. And my foot's asleep, so I'll just sit here. Actually, I'm taking a pretty big risk, even bringing any of these things up tonight, because I want to work with the community. I have a goal to help the substance abuse issues that we're facing in our community.
Speak up, Christine?
Yeah. And here, how about I come step beside of you?
There you go.
Thanks, everybody. And there. So, the last thing that I want to do is to not seem cooperative. And most of the people in this room will tell you that I can be the biggest supporter or the biggest thorn in your side, and you will hate to see me walk into a room. I offered you an olive branch the other night when I left here because I was emotional when I first spoke. And I kind of took your and Mr. Skinner's comments about the grants as a challenge. So I went back, because that's what I do, research. And I went through the pre-app and the app, and I went to the ETA and the EDA and the SBA and the ARC and all of the websites. I pulled up the FFO that governs this project, and I read all of them. The Power Initiative is for coal-displaced communities, counties, and those counties are ranked based on, I think Shane said it and you said it, Upshur County is considered transitional. We're not quite at risk like some of the southern counties, but we are affected. And because of that, it was a different cost share. More at-risk counties, counties more so in the southern part of the state, they have to come up with a lower percentage cost share because they're considered more at risk. I have all of these pulled up. I can read you what the Power Initiative says. It absolutely says it's for coal displacement, retraining of those specific people. Now, there are 8 categories that you can do that, and diversification and also creating other opportunities and other jobs certainly falls into that. It absolutely did, just like you had said. My biggest concern, and I can tell you, I knew nothing about this project other than I was working on a design for a public space for the same piece of property through the Planning Commission. And I was told to stop that work because this I wasn't told what was coming, I just told something was coming, so I was kind of wasting my time to design the public space. That was a couple months ago. The first time I heard or learned about this project was at the city council meeting in April, when you spoke and we presented the same night, that night. I presented asking the council to create a committee for substance abuse issues. As I sat in the chair and listened to you speak, I was your biggest supporter, biggest fan, absolutely. This is what this community needs. I'm going to find out who this man is, and I'm going to support him and do everything that I possibly can to make this project work. I'm going to call every single council member, and I'm going to tell them they have to do whatever this man wants. I'd never seen you before in my life, but I was your biggest supporter. And I still am for the project. My concerns are this. $4 million is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
And we could do a lot for this community with $4 million. We're going to spend $4 million on a building.
More than a building.
Council has shared, because you offered the other night publicly that I could read your submission. Council did share that with me. Your submission to ARC and all of the joint funding opportunity spells out that 100% of your $4 million will be solely for the building.
Correct.
So as you and Mr. Clemens and some of the other people are saying, we're going to be able to offer coding and an incubator, and we're going to have seed money for patents, and we're going to do this. There's no money in that $4 million for those programs.
Correct.
What we're hoping is we build it and they will come. We're hoping businesses that will offer these things that will allow at some point our kids to stay here will come to our pretty building.
Well, is it a field of dreams type mentality right now? Yeah. But are we always going to focus on having businesses in place before we sign on the dotted line? Yes. So we need to have a critical mass to begin with. This is a brick and mortar project. Could we have applied for program funding at a lesser rate? Probably. But here's where, from a strategic plan standpoint, the money that is earned from renting and leasing of space, in our pro forma, in our projections, from a business standpoint, that money will go into operations of the Innovation Center and provide those resources that we would have there. Now, there will be other facilitators that will come in and provide resources, like the Small Business Development Center. We have a partnership with them, and we're able to sustain that and basically in perpetuity, because we have a state employee here, and we'll have that position. Initially, if we get awarded funding, there's a few organizations that we've had conversations with about being a seed fund in our programming, as far as going after grant funding that would participate in a programming side of it to kind of get a shot in the arm while we're getting up and running and get that program started. And the sustainability of that program would be carried by the revenue from the lease operations at the building. Does that make sense?
Yes, but we're still hoping that the initial $4 million is just going to be a building.
Correct.
And then the first set of businesses that lease space within the building is going to have to go to generate staffing for the building.
Well, staffing, no. It just had to go for paying down our debt and then paying for operations. And we have some room in our budget to do some programming right now. We have some room from the standpoint of, we lease the armory, and we can facilitate using those funds to do some programming for entrepreneurial resources. And as we grow that organization, as we grow that system up. So there is capacity there from a standpoint of what our operations are, because I think we run pretty lean from an organizational standpoint of what we do and what we turn out. that there's capacity there on a small scale to do some programming that would be in this building. The grant funds would be 100% for the building, though. Yes.
So was there not conversation, or did you not feel it'd be better served to maybe scale back a building and use $1 million, $2 million to be able to start new skills training and programming immediately, instead of having to wait, what we're looking at, maybe a couple years for construction completion, and then another year for lease approvals and move in, and then another year before are able to put some extra money into programming that's going to keep our kids here?
Well, we'll be able to put extra money into programming initially, right from the start, just like we are with the SBDC coach. If we were to get funding, we would look at trying to create some opportunities within our office space that we have now to start putting those entrepreneurial resources in place. And even if we don't get the grant funding, we're still going to try and put those entrepreneurial resources in place in our office at the capacity we have now. It won't be as great or grand, but we'll still be able to provide some sort of entrepreneur type resources. Why do we choose to spend all the money on the building? It maximizes the output, maximizes the amount of space.
Long-term financing for the Development Authority projects in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, the more we can reinvest, we're taking a huge risk. I mean, for the Development Authority, and our funding's up, every year, we request funding, and it's always up to the commission. It's always up to the council as far as what they will award us, and I hope that I'm doing a good job. I look in the mirror every morning, and I look in the mirror every night, and I still see the same ugly face every day. But at the same time,
See mine?
but at the same time, I know that I'm giving everything I have to this job, and I'm giving everything I have to this community. I choose to live here, and I believe in Buckhannon, and I want to see great things happen, and that's the motive. I mean, that's just like I said yesterday. I'm not. It's not. It's not a line. It's not anything. I'm very blessed to have this opportunity and the position that I'm in, and I take it very seriously. I don't take it light. And Shane sometimes gets annoyed by me because I bring too many projects to him, he says. What'd you say?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always bringing projects to him. I mean, we're working on a project. That we don't have anything set yet for the fiber in the city of Buckhannon, but we're getting there. If we can become a gig city, that's huge. That's big. I mean, that's like Kansas City was the first one that Google went to and created a gig city, and that's what the market's looking for. They're looking to see if you're a gig city. If you're a gig city, boom, you're starting to check things off the list. We've got great assets here. We've got great culture. We're working on a project right now for a 3-county-wide project to bring rural broadband, high-speed broadband up to 100 megabyte speeds to the rural parts of the county. I mean, we want to be this big, glowing technology saying we are connected. And so we're looking at a project that lines up with this project, which we were hoping wouldn't happen, because now we've got 2 grants that we're working on. The dynamics of the 3-county project are beyond whatever we thought. I think we're bit off a lot more than we could shoot. But we're going to do it. We're going to try it. We're going to go after it. We're going to go after funds that have not been. West Virginia hasn't gotten these funds since 2011. And that's wrong. We ranked 50th. So we got to go after that stuff. If we're successful, we're going to bring 100 meg speed to places that only have dial-up or satellite. We're going to bring it at affordable prices, $29. Satellite, you pay $80 and you get a gig, and you're limited on data, and then you got to pay another one. I talked to somebody that's out in the near 10 Mile, and one of the things is he retired here, and he FaceTimes his kids, but he has to ration his data. That's horrible. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's a personal thing. I'm invested.
Christine, you have other things, honey?
Just a couple. Okay. And I get it, and I applaud you, and you can tell in the way you present that you're emotional and committed to the project. I moved away and came back. I was in the oil and gas industry, left just before layoffs, way more than 300, probably 3,000, close to it. I drive every day to WVU now. I would love to work here in the community. this is a pretty big undertaking. My thought or my suggestion to you maybe is to expand who you let into your circle and get some other viewpoints when you start this, because I did read the full application and you guys have a big undertaking if you're going to put that together. I know you said the other day, we talked about deadlines. There's actually not a deadline for this project. The project opened in October of 2015. It doesn't close until 2018 unless funds are exhausted.
That was the first power grant.
Right, but the 2016 initiative,
Started March 17th.
it did. The new paperwork that came out, same initiative, but the 2016 started.
Different set of funds.
Correct. Another $45 million for this 2016. There still is no deadline for the 2016.
First come, first served.
Correct, until the money goes. There were 36 awards initially last year that were handed out. Nobody got $3 million.
Right.
The most that was given out was $2 million. That was for an entire rehab facility in Ohio.
I would direct that to Shane, because I wasn't familiar with the power grant in the fall or last summer. It was really, what was unfortunate is the power grant last year was really heavily focused in Kentucky, and West Virginia was kind of the last to find out about it. And I didn't know much about it. And I don't know, Shane, you want to talk about how last year's funding cycle is different from this year's, or?
The only other difference that, and again, I'm not familiar with any of the things that happened last year. I just know West Virginia was not privy to the funding that was committed, and I'm not quite sure what you're looking at in regards to what was funded last year.
The White House press release for the 2015 Power Initiative.
Was it, okay, it was the Power Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference it might be, which is a huge difference, is the fact that ARC is now involved.
Right.
And the fact that there's $45 million extra dollars available.
The ARC was involved last year as well, but the most that they handed out to the other 36 people was $75,000.
And probably the most of those projects were just program related. It wasn't bricks and mortar.
Except the rehabs. And ARC only gave $75,000 to them. So I guess I would just say, what makes you think that you're going to get $3 million when nobody else ever? Most of those awards are less than $500,000. ARC only giving 75, but you're banking on ARC giving you 1.5.
The reason, and this is the honest answer, the reason why we are asking for what we're asking is because we were advised by folks with ARC and EDA that knew about our project, that because we presented our concept to both ARC and EDA, the reps that are here in the state. And that's one of the first things that you probably was advised by Shane. If you have a project, let them know and get them in the loop as far as if they think that this is, if they throw you out of the office or if they want to keep talking to you. And they called us up and they said, hey, I think you should ask for 1.5 from each. And I actually was kind of shocked. And Shane and I talked about it. We're like, really? You want us to ask for that much money? And so I said, okay. I mean, the least they could do is say, we'll only give you one, or we'll only give you none.
Right.
So
Back with whatever they want.
So ask for all and see where that gets you. And yeah, I mean, who knows? They could come back and say, we'll give you 500.
Okay, my last question. You stated in the submission that you guys did the names of the agencies that would be housed in this building, and that those agencies were going to consist of about 25% occupancy of the building. The other 75% in your submission was specifically to knowledge-based contractors.
Knowledge-based businesses, yes.
So how is that going to work with the banks and retail?
Well,
those aren't knowledge-based
right,
businesses.
The two offices, well, banking can be considered knowledge-based. If you have a finance component to it, investment component to it, there's a sense of knowledge information transfer there that could fall under that. Knowledge-based businesses cover a large swath of businesses. We would take up 25%. We pay rent right now. Our rent would actually decrease a little bit. So that would be a good thing. It would save on our overhead. Less overhead we have, the more we can do program investment. And the 2 floors, 2 and 3, is going to be your general office space. And then the first floor will be, you know, retail business maybe, service business, walk-in business. Yeah, so I mean, the 75% is both retail and knowledge base. 75% of the rest of the aggregate space is going to be leased tenant space, I guess, if you will. So 2 floors will most likely, we're thinking, will be your knowledge-based businesses, and then the first floor would be, you know, kind of maintain the continuity of Main Street. So the biggest thing was, in that sentence, was to say that we're representing 25% of the building. The rest of it is going to be open for job-creating companies. Not that we don't create jobs with our entities, but we don't want to create a whole building for government agencies. That doesn't help add to the private sector.
Okay.
Does that help?
It answers a few of my questions.
Okay.
I would like to speak to you when we're not on a time constraint, though.
Absolutely.
About some other
Anytime.
things.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Next on the list, Terry, you, Lisa? Okay. Carrie?
Yeah, Robin and Dave, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry I didn't sign up earlier. My name is Carrie Wallace. I'm the county administrator. I'm also a member of the Development Authority. And I'm here today in support of this project. And the reason I want to speak to you is because I feel like I'm a personal example of someone that these people have been talking about today that are for this project. My husband and I both went to Wesleyan here. And I graduated in 2010, and we both decided to move to North Carolina at that time for me to get experience in my field. I have a master's in business administration. And when I graduated and I was applying for jobs here, I was competing with people that had 5 and 10 years experience. And I couldn't do that. I had to leave to get that experience before I could come back. When we decided to move back, it was after we had our daughter, so we wanted to be somewhere in north central West Virginia. However, we looked as far away as Lewisburg and Parkersburg. But we felt at home in Buckhannon. And luckily, I was given the opportunity to have a job that I love here and I can support my family with. This opportunity with this one lot and this one building will provide multiple people with that same opportunity. But we can't discount the fact that it's going to affect people that we're all friends and family with. These people that have these high-tech jobs are going to go to lunch on Main Street. They're going to go get their car worked on in Buckhannon. They're going to buy houses here. They're going to hire contractors to build their houses or renovate them. They're going to hire lawn care services. And the people that start those businesses are the ones that have been laid off by the oil and gas and the coal mining industries. So it's not only going to support these high-tech jobs with people that have these degrees or these experiences, but it's going to help the people that graduate from our high school that don't want to go on to college, and that's absolutely fine. But we want to support all of those people to get them to stay here. But I am in support of the project, and I appreciate your time tonight. And I strongly urge you to keep your decision to support this resolution and trust the Development Authority to move forward in the best interest of the city of Buckhannon. And most importantly, I come to you as a resident of Buckhannon, as a taxpayer, not as an administrator, not as a member of the Development Authority, but as a citizen in Buckhannon that has a young family that wants to stay here. Thank you.
Jody, did you want to speak?
Well, I wasn't, but I just got a question. I talked to Rob, and so I'm not blindsiding him the other day. Oh, stop. I hate that. So y'all can moan and groan. For those of you who know me will know that usually I'm not short-winded, but this is going to be 2 easy questions, and we talked about this. You all had some really great questions. Mine are really simple. One is, how many Development Authority members are here? And is that all of them?
No.
And there's a reason I'm asking. Did everyone vote for the project? Everyone that was on the Development Authority? Yes. Everybody voted unanimously. Now here's my question. I asked Rob this. I have to be devil's advocate. I'm a what if person. What if, we talked about it, what if it doesn't fill? It can happen. There's no guarantees. Who pays the bill? You're a paid employee and Mel's a paid employee. You're all volunteers, just like I am on every other board. Robbie could get a job elsewhere, people could go. That's only my question. I think it's a great project. I am concerned about the traffic and some of those issues. A lot of the questions have been answered, but I've yet to have anyone say, what if it doesn't fill? You have a mortgage. You guys have no commitment to stay with the development where you could move and do something else. That's all I'm asking is, how is it paid for? What if, I know it's great to say it will, but what if it doesn't? Does the city pay for it? Does the county? Development Authority? Rob may get a job in San Francisco. We won't let you go. I told you we're tied here for 20 years. I really don't know that answer, and I'm not being stupid. It sounds like a silly question, but it's a very basic, dumb question. Who pays for it? Yes, please.
Well, the Development Authority would be responsible for paying for it. The advantage from a business perspective is that this building is, has a break even around between 38 and 40%. So that's a pretty good break even from an occupancy standpoint. If we were looking at this project and our break even was 80%, wow, that's we wouldn't do it. It just wouldn't make sense. I think from a risk mitigation standpoint, I think we're doing all the things that we need to do to mitigate the risks going forward. Having a set of businesses that will go in initially, before we even build the thing, I think gives us a better shot. It's like the Armory bond. We have an annual payment of $56,000. We made that payment today for that, and we're paying that bond down. We're creating opportunities. I mean, with the Armory, we're creating opportunities for M2 Bravo. That actually, thank you, Josh, for coming tonight. And they pay lease, and we take those lease payments and we pay towards that bond, and we do some other things with that money as far as investing in the community. And so it's on us. It's on our shoulders, and it's a risk. And that's the thing that I think we all need to understand is that risk. We're looking at that and we're going, if we don't have the businesses, we can't move forward. As much as we would love to build this building, as much as we would love to have this opportunity here, if it doesn't make sense, we got to walk away. We have to be. We kind of have to take our hearts out of it because I'm a biased on this project. I think you can tell. I love this project, but I've got a board that, like Bob said the other night, vets the project and is a devil's advocate. And if it doesn't work, it's a business decision, and we just have to say, it's not going to work. We're going to walk away and cut our losses, and let's look at what opportunities lay ahead that we can invest in and we can create. Does that answer your question?
Well, sort of.
I mean, there's always going to be a chance that is it going to fail? Can we put ourselves in a position?
I don't want it to fail.
Well, if it doesn't fill, right. I guess that's kind of similar. If it doesn't fill, I guess the counter to that would be, what if it does? And what if it's great? What if it works out? But I think setting those parameters to say, look, we've got to get commitments beforehand, and I think that would be that's really the start to say that I think we've got a good shot that if we sign, a few 5-year leases, we know that we'll have revenue from that point, and we'll continue to build onto that.
And those businesses that are signing now commitments are okay that it may be 2 years before it's, I don't know how long something like that takes to build.
We've actually, with the architect and engineer, we've been told that we could actually, once design is complete, we could actually be occupied in this building in 12 months or less.
Wow.
Now that's when 12 months or less. And that's perfect weather. That's not having a blizzard. That's not having the monsoon that we've been having here lately. But I mean, that's what it said. 12 months. Obviously, every construction project takes a little bit longer.
It's very good.
But and we were impressed by that. So that's the time frame there. And the businesses are aware of that. They know that right now the conversations that we're having, it's a what-if scenario. Right. But we can say, here's what the lease rate would be. Here's what the operational cost would be. This is what you're looking at a cost. This is where we're looking at a 5-year lease. I could do that. And that answer, it puts us in a position that, hey, that business is interested. We're upfront with what it's going to cost. There's no hidden agenda here, no hidden secrets, and we'll move forward. But until we get the funding, until we get the non-binding agreement for Ward, we really can't, force them to do anything binding at that rate anyways. So it's a risk, but we're taking it in a responsible and non-reckless way. It'd be nice to get grant funding here. It'd be nice to get $3 million worth of federal investment here, but we're not going to do it if it's going to jeopardize any of the organizations that are here at Buckhannon.
Can I have one thing about this? In every conversation that he and I have had about this, and boy, have we had a lot of conversations, I don't think it's ever crossed our mind in this discussion that this would fail if we got it. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yeah.
And I think we both believe that with all our hearts that we can fill this building in time. And I mean, that's what our commitment is. It's what our belief is. And, you know, if we're not successful, I'll be surprised. I think we're going to do great at this.
You talked about putting a garage underneath.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how many would that be? 18 to 20 cars, is that what you said?
Yeah, I think the maximum capacity to get was 18 cars. But I mean, I can't say that is something we could do or couldn't do. It's a possibility.
Personally, I think that's a waste of money. What it would cost to put a garage underneath that and to make that land suitable for underneath that
Yeah.
building, I think could go to something else.
Right, and I think that's what would ultimately cause us not to do it, is this is cost prohibitive. You know, and you know, we're, with the 27,000 square foot building, I said last week, you know, we're pushing on a $4 million budget. We're really pushing it, so, and that's just laying it right on the foundation.
And that's not counting the garage.
Well, no, it's not counting the garage, yeah, so.
That's why I want-
The only chance that, I mean, it's just, I can't give an answer whether we can or cannot do it. Would we, if it would work and we wouldn't jeopardize any or take anything away from the project, maybe, but I think it's probably going to be cost prohibitive, and we're going to end up not having enough money to do the entire building if we did a parking underneath. I think it's going to be expensive.
Okay, and one other thing I want to clarify to the community. This absolutely cannot, second and third floor, be used for apartments,
For housing?
for housing.
No, ma'am, no. I would go to jail. Actually, wait, I would go to prison. Because
These are questions I've been asked, and I've got to clarify this.
No,
And that's why I'm asking.
the EDA has strict regulations that this cannot be residential, and that's fraud, because we're saying we're going to use it for this, and we can't use it for
Okay, I have, I think Robin wanted to say something?
I just wanted to say something. Most of the people that are here, including myself, we are not negative. We are not your enemy. We want you to succeed. It was just where you want to put it and the rush of it. Our representative that council put on the Development Authority did not come back and fill us in. So I know at least Pam and I were caught by surprise. I don't know about the others. So
Absolutely.
perhaps if we'd have been aware of what was going on, we could have been out there saying, hey, let's do this. But you caught it by surprise and wanted to make a decision like that. And we have the obligation to talk to everybody and find out what people want, and we need to look into it, and before we can make an educated decision. You wouldn't make an uneducated decision, would you? If you were sitting in our seats?
That's why we've been very open about everything and answering questions.
Well,
I think that this process has been, you know, we met with Michael.
I got to say something. I got to add to what she has to say. Nobody out there may not know this. I found out about this through a conversation at the Chamber of Commerce dinner. Somebody introduced me to a contractor from Clarksburg, and he said to me, I said, who are you, blah, 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 blah. And he says to me, he says, I am bidding on the 3-story building that's going in downtown Buckhannon. I said, really? I said, and where is this building going to be? And he says, on that old parking lot where there used to be an old building. I said, you talking about Spring Street? He said, yes, I'm bidding on that property. I said, well, I'm on city council, and it's the first time I've heard of this. So it was a few days after I had asked for the resignation of the mayor, so I wasn't going to go into that. So I went over to Ron Pugh, who was sitting at another table. Ron Pugh knew about it. How did Ron Pugh know about it? He's not on the Development Authority.
Let me say how I knew
Well,
about
wait a minute, I'm not finished.
it. Okay, well, please let me say.
So, I will.
Okay.
So, and then I'm finding out in some other conversations that the property was already spoken for, and that I believe Mary Albaugh is the one who said, forget whatever going on at the Planning Commission, the property is already taken. Okay. So, okay, I'm just telling you what I was told, okay?
Who told you?
Who told you?
Who told you, Penny?
Who told me?
Yeah.
Christine told me that Mary called her, told her to stop her planning.
Discuss that and when we review the planning commission meeting minutes.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, how did anybody, okay, Dave knew about it?
No, I did not know about it.
You didn't know about it?
I knew about the conceptualization, as Robert said last October. He wanted to get knowledge-based technology businesses here. Okay.
Understand that.
The first I heard of any specificity, which was very little, was in the March meeting. And then we were told we were going to have a presentation to the city council. I heard much more specificity at that meeting. This is not a secret society. This has been an open process. And I am really disturbed that some people think that are in this room that a lot of people knew about this before anybody else in city council. I did not. I said last time we met that the individual architect that made that comment to you, Pam, was absolutely wrong to make that comment. I didn't even know the architect was
Sure, but I
there.
can't help that I was told this.
Well, yeah, I can't help it. He should have never said that, or she. I don't know who it was.
All I'm saying is, I'm on city council, same as you, and same as
Yes,
Robin.
and you
everybody
knew
else.
about this at the appropriate time, which was April the 21st, and we've had lots of opportunities to vet this, and we'll do it some more.
Yes, we will.
And this is not a done deal. It is the intent for a collaborative
Right.
partnership.
But we have to know what's going on.
Well,
Most
so we all
make
know,
decisions.
we all need to know what's going on.
Right.
This
Ron-
is
Ron-
ridiculous.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't.
Well, I'm sorry, I disagree with you.
Okay, I knew about this project way back in October, a cold night after I believe it was after a town hall meeting, walking back to my car, and I met Rob out there, and he said, hey, what would you think about a building on this vacant lot? I said, wow, that would be nice, you know, that's the extent I knew about it. He said, we're just going on thinking about something that might eventually someday be built on this lot. I knew nothing about it until the April meeting when the rest of us did. It was a conversation that I hadn't even thought about until you brought up and said, you knew about this before that? No, I didn't. Now let me make one other comment while I'm there, and that's the fact that consider what happens if we don't be progressive. Have you been to downtown Grafton lately? Have you been to downtown Philadelphia lately? Now listen to me, please. Don't interrupt. Have you been to downtown Welch in McDowell County? McDowell County, Welch had a population of 65,000 people back when coal was good. They have a population now of 2,406 people in Welch, West Virginia. They have 80% empty houses in Welch, West Virginia. The reasoning? They did not plan for a future beyond coal. They thought that coal would never end. There were more millionaires in McDowell County, West Virginia than probably half the United States.
They called it Little New York.
Yeah, Little New York. And that's what happens if you don't plan. I don't want to see Buckhannon end up with half of the stores empty on Main Street and boarded up and crack houses on every corner, because that's the way it is in McDowell County. So let's move forward. Let's don't be regressive and keep things the way they were, because the things aren't the way they used to be. If we don't progress, we're going to end up with 80% empty houses and no storefronts.
I agree. I believe we need to be progressive, but we have to know what we're making decisions on and make the right decisions for the whole community.
You can fight that battle all you want to, Pam, but we were notified at the appropriate time of what goes on. If you're going to open a business yourself and you're going to tell everybody in town that, hey, I'm going to open a business for doing this, Well, by golly, next thing you know, there's 18 other people trying to do your business because they think that's a good idea. You keep your investments quiet. I think every business person in this room would admit they don't tell what their business is and what they're going to do with it. Running the city is a business. It's a business using the taxpayers' money. It's a business where the president or the mayor is the CEO. The council is the board of directors. Everybody in Buckhannon are the share owners of the business. We have to run it as a business or everybody loses. If we don't, and if we run it for specialities, and it's going to be gone. We have to run it like a business, and if anybody says that they can, that's wrong, just look at other governments that have did their special projects and not run their money the right way, and they have gone broke, and they're in default. New York City, Chicago, places like
Detroit.
Okay, anybody else out there want to speak? Dave?
I'm your new CEO. I think as we leave here tonight, because one of the things I tried to say during the campaign, historically during my 33 years, as of next Monday will be my 34th year will start in Buckhannon. I like to unite people. I try to stay away from divisive stuff, and I think one of the things we need to recognize are the sensitivities with this property. Nobody has had more involvement with the CVB/D&L Tire/Ashland Oil /Edmiston lot, probably in the history of that lot, than I have. Believe me, back in 1988, when Tony Gum was mayor, Rich Clemens was the zoning officer, and D&L Tire was operating down there. In case you don't know what D&L stood for, there were two guys, Leonard DeRico and Simeon Layfield. They had the lease on the Edmiston lot, and they pumped some gas down there, and every once in a while, the whole corner down there, you'd be going down to the post office, stunk to high heaven. It was a horrible situation right in the middle of a pretty little downtown. And the other thing that was going on is they were in the tire business. And they actually had these two big old 18-wheeler tractor trailers parked. And they used to throw them in the thing. And the mosquitoes were flying around down there. God, I hated that lot. So I went to Gum. I said, look, I'm doing Matt Edmiston's work. Let me talk to Matt. Maybe he would sell us the product. Have at it. Sat down Matt Edmiston and said, Matt, city might be interested in getting an option on this property. Well, if the money's there, I might consider it. He didn't even say anything to Duke and Simeon about it. And I got an option agreement. And we had like 180 days to figure out if we wanted to buy this lot. And we did an analysis of the property, and somebody came in from the state and said, gasoline has been seeping out there out of these tanks since the Ashland oil station opened up. I think it was 1961. So by that point, we were talking, pushing 30 years of gas leakage in the whole bit with the underground storage tanks. You guys are taking on a huge pain in the butt. So we just kind of left it. We didn't exercise the option. And then fast forward another 15 years or so, John Moss acquired the property from the Edmistons. And D&L Tire had closed up. The building was literally falling apart. It was this, again, horrible eyesore right in the middle of our downtown. And I went to the next mayor, who was then Jim Knorr, and Nancy Shope was the city recorder. I said, God, what can we do about this horrible eyesore right in the middle of our downtown? It's still here. And what happened? We went to John Moss. The property, I think, appraised at that time for $125,000. He was insistent on $127,000, so we paid $2,000 more to secure the property. And part of the idea, as Nancy Shope was looking for money to pay for that lot, was, I don't know, I'm coming up a little short here. I don't know how we're going to make it work. And there was this partnership that was formed at that point between the city and the previous CVB to allow that lot to be developed, to remove the eyesore, to put in a new building. You get the idea. Everybody was on board with that for the most part because we were going to remove the eyesore. Oh, the other interesting part of this puzzle is the state of West Virginia had this new grant program that if government would buy these brownfield properties, they would take care of the petroleum abatement on these underground storage tanks for free. So we got like $120,000 worth of work done that the state of West Virginia paid for free. So we largely took care of the environmental problem. Still a little bit left, but it's a fraction of what it used to be. And so now you have, for the last 5-6 years, longer than that since the building was whacked, I suppose, this ugly vacant lot that is right there, and I don't think there is a more valuable, third of an acre, between a third and a half of an acre lot in all of Upshur County. It is ripe for development. We have a beautiful downtown, and we have this ugly lot right in the middle of that 3-4 beautiful stretch of buildings, for the most part, in our downtown. So I understand the sensitivities on both sides. I litigated against some of my best friends. I defended the city of Buckhannon in a lawsuit over this lot. I understand it. I understand how the feelings are a little bit raw when we talk about the D&L Tire CVB Edmiston Ashland Oil lot. Been there, done that. But somehow, some way, we got to move past that. I think this is a great potential opportunity for Buckhannon to move in a direction to improve what has been an eyesore going all the way back to the early 1960s. Now that all said, I think the Bob Skinner is very optimistic that this money is going to come through. There's a lot of things that are going to have to happen in the next 6 months. I think it's something certainly less than a pipe dream, but I think it's something certainly less than a sure thing, too. It's somewhere in between. So rather than leave tonight with all these sensitive, it's them and us kind of a thing, let's just keep our minds open to the idea that maybe this will work out and maybe it'll be a good thing. That's where I'm coming from right now on it. I've gotten a lot of information, and I think as a matter of process, if we could have had this meeting a month ago, and I understand how development works. I've helped develop a thing or two, too. I understand that you got to be careful when you make your announcement. But as we go forth with these kind of things, I promise you as your mayor, during my time, I am going to be absolutely as transparent and as all-inclusive as I possibly can. If I got the information, everybody on that city council is going to have the information that I got. It's going to be equally shared information, and the very earliest opportunity that we can share everything we got with the full citizenry, I'm swearing on a stack of Bibles that I will do that.
In the process for the, when you were acquiring the property back, whenever it was.
Which time?
Well, I guess when you were trying to buy it and everything, from Edmiston and from Moss and everything, was the whole population of the city of Buckhannon aware of what you were trying to do? Did you make everything public at the same time, or did you wait until you talked about it and then make it public?
Yeah, they're in fact, as we start out with a deal like that, and it's permitted under state statute, certain property acquisitions, right, as you're talking about negotiating with somebody, and if you reach a price, and now you got to go get council approval on something. If somebody else comes along and says, well, I just heard at the meeting that John Moss is going to sell the property, I'll give you $130,000 right now. Our deal would fall apart. So in some instances, there is a need for some non-disclosure just so that you can secure the rights that you're trying
But
to
you
pursue.
did, as soon as you got that thing, you disclosed that to the general public.
Absolutely, we did everything by
That's exactly
ordinance
right.
and the whole bit.
That's exactly the point I'm
Absolutely.
trying to make tonight, is the fact that you have to have some privacy in negotiations,
Yes, you did.
or there's no negotiations
Yes,
at
you
all.
do.
And I think everything's been done according to law, and I applaud you for what you're doing. I applaud you for being open and everything for the next, your tenure, whatever it is, and I'm going to give you all the help I can for the next month and a half.
Dave, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Maybe me. Did all council know about that back then, that situation?
Which time? The time with Matt Edmondson or the time with John Moss?
That John Law?
It was shared with the entire council in an executive session, and I was given the go-ahead to negotiate the transactions, both with Edmiston the first time and with the Mosses the second time. Absolutely.
Robin, I think you had something to say before we begin.
Yeah, I didn't get to quite finish. Thank you, Dave. Communication's the key to everything. If everyone is informed and they know what's going on, then there's harmony. And that's what we want, is harmony, openness. And actually, the city is partnership with the Development Authority anyway. We give you $40,000 a year. We support the Development Authority. And so, we work very closely with you, and we want you to succeed. So we're not negative. We're not wanting you to not do well. We're supporting you. We just wanted to know what was going on.
Well, I hope I answered the questions tonight.
I've had a lot of questions answered tonight.
You don't run for county commissioner, Rob?
I'm good.
I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening, and if more people would get involved, everybody that's in this room are the people that's really concerned with what's really going downtown, or we have other people here. But I want to thank everybody who came out, who give their ideas, who asked their questions, and I appreciate you. And I would like to tell you all that we're hoping to have more of these in the future with our new mayor. So, good.